This is the Scrum Feed. Tonight we'll be looking at the Belmore Blues. One of their players wants to leave. Rabbitohs' Alex Johnston breaking the try-scoring record. The Knights have a nightmare. We'll also review round 2 and preview round 3. Paul, how have you seen Bronson Xerri throwing all the toys out of the cot because he was going to be dropped?
Well, I don't know if we're allowed to say Chinese whispers anymore, Professor, but I'll say it anyway. My understanding of what happened is that he got word that he wasn't going to be playing first grade. Now, keep in mind, this is a player who spent a few years in the wilderness after a performance-enhancing drug suspension. So he doesn't have a lot of time to waste, Bronson. So whether it's an ego thing, because centres are known for having sizable egos in their rugby league, I'm going to get myself in trouble. But he's put word out that he's not too happy about it. Phil Gould got in trouble because apparently he spoke to a manager that he's not allowed to speak to about it all. There's all sorts of conspiracy theories that they're all trying to move Matt Burton into the centres and get rid of Bronson off the payroll. He didn't play that bad in round 1. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on as to why he'd be dumped to reserve grade. If it was kids footy, you'd have the parent asking the coach, what's my son done wrong? But in this scenario, you've got a major who can't deal with anyone because he's barred or deregistered or on the bench wanting answers. But it's got to the stage where it looks like he's going to be leaving within a month. So I thought he was playing well, and the players seem to be surprised. I'm not sure what's going on. There is a lot of players that can be moved around if he does go. So perhaps it's convenient for the Dogs for him not to be there. And who knows if someone's instigated that, but I wouldn't suggest that at all, of course. But it shows what can happen very quickly in this game of rugby league.
Well, Inari Tuala's coming in at centre. Is that like for like? One better than the other?
Well, he's not going to set the world alight. No disrespect to Inari. I didn't think Bronson Xerri was doing enough to be dropped, whether it's to do with his training. He's only played 1 game and he's still got 2 years left on the contract. So it's a strange move to dump him to reserve grade. He's one of the quickest players in the game. He was playing well. So there's probably more to it, as there is with most stories, than what we've heard.
Played 24 games and scored 9 tries last season for the Bulldogs, Paul, and I thought he was one of the better players in the, well, pretty poor finals series that the Bulldogs had.
Yeah, well, that's it. I can only imagine that they weren't going to renew the deal. There's a lot of people suggesting there's a guy for the Dogs, Mitchell Woods, who's the future of the Dogs number 7 jersey. He'll probably play there 10 years. He's that good. He captained South Wales under 17s, I think it was, so 19s. But he's the future. And they've also got a guy, Sean O'Sullivan, there, who's got one of my favourite expressions, a good footballer's brain. He's apparently quite a tactician. So he could easily step in at 7 if required. So if Burton's moves out to the centres. So it's all very interesting to see what will happen there, particularly as well with Lockie Galvin. So there's got to be some movements behind the scenes. It all seems a bit strange to me for a guy that wasn't stinking the joint up to be dropped to reserve grade.
Alex Johnston, a Rabbitoh, Paul, broke Ken Irvine's long-standing try record. He scored 2 on the weekend and goes to 213, holds the record all by himself. He's had, well, how many more can he score? That's the question.
He's still got 3-4 years left in him. He may be a target for the Papua New Guinea Chiefs when they come in, given his heritage. That record, by the way, was last set before I was born, Professor. So I'm feeling pretty old after today. It's a long time ago, so it'll stand for a long time as well. It was an amazing record to the point where you would have seen the Prime Minister rush the field to congratulate. The irony, though, that the first person on board was a Roosters fan to congratulate him. So that was a bit strange seeing that in the footage. Everyone wanted a part in it, and it was great for the game. It's a shame we lost. I know what Wayne Bennett cares about. It's not records. It's about the wins. Unfortunately for the Rabbitohs, from that moment on, we were terrible. So all the momentum the Rabbitohs had, we lost the game.
Well, I know that your coach was calling for people not to rush the field. Just shows the super coach can ask and request a lot of things. Sometimes they don't happen.
No, it shows that he's been around long enough to know, similar to what John McEnroe used to do when he'd stage temper tantrums when he wasn't actually annoyed. It's amazing what a change of momentum can do, and he was quite prophetic. It's cost the Rabbitohs the game, that intrusion.
Knight's nightmare, Paul. Who would believe that within 10 minutes you could lose $2.7 million worth of talent? Kalen Ponga and Dylan Brown go down. Is that the end of the Knights? Or they did hold on against Manly even after they weren't on the field after half time?
Well, we talked about China's whispers earlier. That reminds me of Wendell Stabler's nickname in rugby union. It was China because he's expensive and sits on the bench. So unfortunately, the Knights are stuck in that scenario where they've got their two best players sitting on the bench on the Pioneer in the recovery room. It's very sad because they won their first two games and I can't see them winning too many more. Fletcher Sharp is back, but their two best players are injured and it's just devastating for the Knights. Or sorry, not their two best, but two of their very best. So it is a big shame. Ponga, I don't think will be out too long, but it will stop their momentum and I think it'll cost them a chance of making the eight.
We've got a new session, Paul. It's called the pressure valve. And there are three coaches at the moment, I think, who are on that pressure valve: Anthony Seibold, Todd Payten and Michael Maguire.
Yeah, well, the first two I did predict in the pre-season preview that they'll be the first to be sacked, and they will be. Both of them, I think, will be gone within weeks. Maguire has just won a premiership, so I think he deserves a bit more time. But the Broncos will come good, I'll guarantee it now. So I'd get the third one out of that valve that you've created and keep the other two firmly on simmer.
Anthony Seibold, his Sea Eagles, they've on the bye this week. Will he survive the bye?
I think he will just, but Greg Alexander, who's no fool, called their performance insipid, I think was the word, and one of the worst displays he'd ever seen that second half. So you've got to feel for players like Trebojevic Senior, Jake, because he's putting in, but he just doesn't have the team around him, and he's not what he was, with all respect to Jake. It wouldn't be easy being in that team at the moment. They just don't have any drive or motivation, and then they come out of the bye and they host the Roosters. So, yeah, that could be a massacre. If it is, that might be the end of Seibold.
Let's review last round, Paul. The Broncos started off the round at home against the Eels. They scored the first two tries of the match, but that was it.
One of the strangest games I've seen, and particularly on the back of the Eels getting absolutely dismantled by the Storm the week before, to go up to Brisbane, who were hungry and they've got talent galore, and they're, by the way, they're reigning premiers. Just an astounding turnaround, one of the biggest turnarounds I think we've seen, and they would have been all of $6 or $7 early on in that game to win that match. Not only have they won it, they've put 40 on a team that's renowned for defence. So I don't know what to make of it, Professor, but it does show the Broncos are struggling.
Might be difficult to go across the ditch this season, Paul. The Warriors put up 40 against the Raiders. It was 6-all at half time, but that was the end of the penny section. Zelezniak, the hyphen, scored a double. Where do you put the... Well,
I put the Warriors in the 8 at the start of the season, and I'd have to check where I put the Raiders, but they're slipping there at the Raiders. I think Ricky Stewart's untouchable. Well, they did top the table last year, so I think he'll be safe, but yeah, they wouldn't want many more performances like that. Warriors were fantastic, though. This is, keep in mind, before their regular halfback gets back, Metcalf.
Alex Johnston, as we said, scored 2 tries for the Rabbitohs, and they looked pretty good, Paul, but Daly Cherry Evans might be at least holding time as it was. The Roosters get up to win.
Yeah, well, I might have a bit of rooster egg on my face after that, because Cherry Evans, do they lay eggs, Roosters? Anyway, he played pretty well after I wrote him off, Cherry Evans, and it's against my team as well. So we'll see if he can hold it for 26 round season. We'll see. He played well, and the Roosters were just too good for the Rabbitohs. After the match, you would have seen Wayne Bennett wondering why everyone's celebrating when they just lost. And I think Alex Johnston was a bit embarrassed by it all, because you don't want to be celebrating individual accolades. He's a humble man to start with when your team's just lost. So that's what unfortunately happened for the Rabbits.
The Giraffe guarantee, the West Tigers saluted Paul, did it very nicely in style, 44 points, defeated the Cowboys 16. Adam Dewey scored as many points as the Cowboys did.
That's it. One of the reasons I did tip them, he's a great player and everyone's enjoying him there in the Hearts. And I think they're in for a good season. The Tigers, be great to see them make the 8. I can only imagine Leichhardt Hill, some of those games this year, one of the best places to watch football. So I'm happy to keep tipping the guarantees week after week, hopefully.
Valentine Holmes double didn't help the Dragons, Paul. The Storm came home like a train in the second half to win 40-20.
Yeah, and the thing is that Storm won't have their best. They'd have to be close to premiership favourites, the Storm. The Dragons played well. I know it doesn't look it with that scoreline, 46-20, but the Storm actually side of a good team. They managed a massive win away from home against a team playing well, not at their best. I mean, and all credit to them. Munster was the first to say they didn't play well. So Bellamy won't be happy, but they're a scary proposition if they're winning like that when they're not at their best.
Panthers at Bathurst. strangled the life out of the Sharks, 26-6. They look pretty good too.
Well, I think those two teams are looking like grand finalists at this moment because the Sharks were coming off pretty wide-hot form the week before when people were calling the Premiership threats. So the Panthers are just clinical and they look like they're on quite a run.
No joy for Schooner, Paul. The Sea Eagles going down to the Knights. We already spoke about that, but the Knights put up 36, which is not a bad total when you've got 2.7 million sitting on the pine for the second half.
And that's the most damning aspect of it all, is that they managed that and that the Sea Eagles also couldn't put on many points in the absence of those players. So it's a damning indictment for Manly, one of their darker days.
It was hammer time for the Dolphins right at the end of the game, Paul, and just as well because his try got them over the line to what I thought was a disappointing Titans, and the Dolphins were nearly even more disappointing.
Yeah, well, the Titans held on and they were leading against one of the Premiership favourites, but by the end, though, class prevailed and the Dolphins managed to get the win, but it certainly wasn't a ringing endorsement of my Premiership tip for the year in that outcome, but they got there in the end.
Let's look at the coming round, Paul. Thursday night, the Raiders playing at home in Canberra against my Bulldogs. Who do you think will win and why?
I'm tipping your Dogs. I don't like what's happened this week with all the distractions. I just think the Raiders are on the slide, and I just think the Dogs might have a bit too much class. They'll fire up with all this talk that a player wants out. I don't know how popular he was in the team. I'm saying he was unpopular, but I think the Dogs will rally and get a win. They're a better team than the Raiders. I think they'll win.
And the Raiders had a gruelling match across the ditch against the Warriors last week, Paul. Did you see that torrential rain?
Yeah.
It was amazing the skills that they showed in such wet weather.
Well, it used to be talked about that after playing the Warriors, you'd have an extra day off. And I don't think it was just from the jet lag. It was just because it's such a physical match over there. So, I do think the Raiders will be a bit tired. I'm surprised the Dogs are outsiders, actually, so I think they'll win.
The test for the Roosters for the first game on Friday night, Paul, when they come up against the Panthers, who are 2-0. Do you think the Roosters can give the Panthers a bit of a surprise?
I think it'll be a good game, but I think the Roosters would have put a lot into that Rabbitohs match, so we've had it circled on the calendar. And I think that the Panthers will win this. They'll just be too classy against what I think will have to be a tiring Roosters team late in the game.
Any chance that might be the guarantee game?
No, not that one. I've got my eyes on something a bit later on. And it's not the Storm either. I think the Storm at home will be too good for the Broncos. I wouldn't be surprised, though, this is the sort of match the Broncos can spring an ambush, but the Storm at home is just too difficult, I think, for the Broncos. It'd be a great game, though. The grand final replay on a Friday night, it'll be massive.
Certainly didn't think the Broncos would be 0-2 coming into this game, Paul.
Well, that's why they won't want to be 0-3, and I think that they'll be fired up. It's going to be some sort of match. It's certainly going to test them out. I think it'll be very close, but I'm tipping the Storm just.
I would have thought with Super Saturday, Paul, the first game would have been the match of the round if Ponga and Dylan Brown had been playing. Both teams undefeated. Knights against the Warriors. I think the Warriors might be just a bit too good without...
Well, not just a bit too good. They get your guarantee out, get that bell out. The Giraffe guaranteed on the Warriors. Excellent. So it's my choice for the week. I think the Warriors will beat the Knights with the guarantee attached.
Can the Sharks bounce back against the Dolphins?
I'm actually tipping the Dolphins at odds. I still like them, and I was very disappointed with the Sharks last week. I think the Dolphins have a lot of power in that team and a forward pack that can perform. So I'm actually tipping the Dolphins at very sizable odds.
Even though they're playing it at Shark Park?
Even though they're playing at Shark Park, I just think that team is something special.
All right, the nightcap on Saturday night, Paul, your Rabbitohs playing a team that we expect to go very well, West Tigers.
Who normally beat us. It doesn't matter how we're both going. They seem to rise for this match. It's up at Gosford, so I wouldn't be surprised if they win. But I'm tipping the Rabbitohs, not with any great confidence, though.
Sunday game, Paul, the Eels, the first game, Eels playing the Dragons, who've been pretty unlucky. They've sort of played well against the Storm and lost, and played well against the Bulldogs and lost. Is this one they could win, or will the Eels bounce back?
I think the Eels will continue their form against the Broncos. If they can win at Brisbane away, they can certainly win at home against the Dragons, and they will.
And probably the two worst teams in the competition at the moment, Paul, and that's borne out by the ladder, one 16th, one 17th, not a win between them. The Cowboys at 0-2 and the Titans at 0-2.
I'd actually put Manly worse than the Titans. I haven't been as disappointed in the Titans as yourself. I actually think they're not a bad squad. They haven't scored many points. They need to get that started very quickly. But they've scored 24 points in 2 games. Yeah, so I don't think they're as bad a team as what perhaps they might appear. But I actually think they'll beat the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are a shot.
Todd Payten a chance of copping the boot if they lose this one?
He will, and I hate to say it, but you feel like the players, if they don't rise for this game, then he would be gone if he's lost the dressing room. I actually think the Titans will win this one in a close one.
And the Giraffe guarantee on the Knights and Warriors game, we're on the Warriors, correct?
That's the one. Yep, mark it down.
All right, another new segment, Paul, just to finish off the show. Question time. The video's been getting quite a number of questions on YouTube. One of the first ones, talking about Zach Lomax, and it wouldn't be a scrum feed if we didn't talk about Zach Lomax. Bye-bye, Lomax, bye-bye, go Broncos busting Eels.
Yeah, well, it didn't age well, that comment, because they lost. So here we go. Anyway, we'll see what happens with all of that. The Eels did well to get that win. I think they stood up for themselves, and that's all they deserve, because they took a principled stand and they saluted.
Two of our correspondents, Paul, have queried the name of the show, the Scrum Feed. One of them says league scrums are pointless and embarrassing.
Yeah, the scrums actually, well, I'll look at it here. The scrum is a management framework term that teams use to self-organise and work towards a common goal. So me and you, Professor, trying to navigate the stormy seas of rugby league wisdom, putting our head in the scrum and offering up what we can see in between all the backsides. So I do think, though, on a serious note, that there is a point of the scrum, irrespective of whether they're regularly won, which they aren't, as you know, against the feed, is that it locks away the forwards and the back lines are then open up for set pieces. And some of the best rugby league action you'll see is off the back of those set pieces from scrums. Whilst the actual scrum itself might not have a function, seeing some of the better athletes of our game do what they do is quite a treat, which wouldn't happen if the scrums weren't there.
Well, and it wouldn't be great league debate if there wasn't the Scrum Feed either.
No, that's right. And it's a part of the game that hopefully the Landers never touches, because it's here to stay.
Point about the comment you made last week about Mitch Barnett from one of our viewers, Paul. Newcastle would be unable to pay Barnett because they've got Brown and Ponga on the payroll.
Yeah, it's probably right. And what would sadly have to happen is certain players that have to be squeezed out if he was to come in. So that is a good point. There is only so much to go around. There's a lot of money locked up in those. They've got to lock up the future as well. Fletcher Hunt. They're saving on Sandon Smith at half. He's playing very well. There's not a lot of other highly paid forwards there, though, so they could have fit him in.
All right, Paul, that's all from the Scrum Feed for this week. Let's talk league again next week.
Well, good. Thank you.